Good day and welcome to this last episode in my Quilting with Dawn series on building this Sealife art quilt. For those of you just tuning in, I've been working on this, you'll see in front of you, and in fact here's the full picture of it, to give to a local dive shop at which I help. I'm a dive master, I help them out, and I thought it'd be neat if they had a quilty thing hanging on their wall, so I've made this. In this episode, I'm going to finish it. I am going to quilt it and bind it. Free motion quilting, where I'll stitch around all the critters, and then I'll stitch along this pattern that you see in the background color, the blue. That hopefully will be not too adventurous. I've done some free motion before, and I think we're going to be okay. I've picked my thread color. It's a nice light blue, mildly variegated thread that should blend nicely with the back and still help the critters pop out on the batting. I have already layered it with the top, the batting, and, oh, get ready for this. I love this backing. Isn't that gorgeous? I came across this in the last month or two, and Carolyn even says, that's too good. But I said, no, she'd like to see me use it in something else instead of just as a backing. But I love it, and I think it goes well with this quilt. And hey, I'm giving it away. I want to make it right. So, I'm now going to drag out my Singer 99, correction, I'm now going to drag out my Singer Confidence Quilter. I almost said 99K, which is the antique machine I've also used. But I'm using the Singer Confidence Quilter because it does have a free motion foot and it works well. I am ready to do some free motion quilting. I'm going to sew around my first critter, the decorated war bonnet. Got my gloves on. I've already threaded the bobbin, so you see the two threads up above here. And got the the quilting foot, free motion quilting foot on the machine. So here we go. Feed dogs are retracted. The trickiest part I find is finding the presser or the pedal for the machine and then keeping a nice light pressure on it so it goes as slowly as it can. Nice tight stitches. Get these threads out of the way. But you get the idea. So now I'm working around the shape. And what I'm going to do now is actually turn it because I'm getting into an area that's going to be hidden by the foot. So I'm going to now pivot it around so that I can continue. So I can see where I'm going. Without putting too much stress on the needle, obviously. There we go. Now I can see better. The other thing I learned is to make sure you have the fabric rock steady when you start so it doesn't shift and give you a weird stitch. And you can see with this method, it even works on the very little fussy bits I've got here, as long as you go slowly. Alright, quick update. I have now stitched around every critter. It's all, you might not see it from this angle, but there is a bit of relief where these guys all puff out just a little bit because they're sewn down around the edges. So did a lot of close following along the edges as close as I could get without actually stitching onto the fabric. So now comes the more laborious but still straightforward part of quilting this background here, or all the way around. And initially I was going to try to mirror or follow all the white parts here, and I realized that's going to be a lot of work, and I'm not sure it's going to actually make it any better. So between Carolyn and I, we came up, I'm probably going to say it's probably Carolyn's idea. What I'm going to do is waves. There are major lines in this quilt, like along here, you can see it just goes up and down and around. So I'm going to stitch those back and forth, these major lines, as a curvy, wavy pattern, and then we'll see what I do to fill in between the spaces. And I'm just going to do the blue right now. Right now I don't have a plan yet to quilt, if at all, this water reflection and the coral. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to do the coral. I like it just the way it is because it's mostly pictorial with all the pretty colors. I might do something up here. Update, I have not been quilting for about a week now. I spent a good solid 4 days putting up my Christmas lights, which there'll be a video on that soon, because definitely I make the neighborhood glow. But I thought I was going to start quilting the background, but I decided after thinking about it, I'm going to go around the octopus and the text one more time, a little offset from before to help, again, pop out a bit more, make it more of the center feature of the quilt. So, one other thing. I use a spot lamp of sorts. It's off screen here, but I'm turning it up now so you can see the camera is adjusting because it's getting more light, but it certainly lights up my work area so I can see exactly where I'm stitching. It just doesn't make it great for filming, but bear with me. I have quilted the background. You can see it here, you can see the wavy pattern as it goes around the various critters. I also did stitch around the octopus. Now, full disclosure, I showed it to Carolyn and she pointed out a couple areas that I should fix, and I did. So yeah, I had to unsew or pull apart a few small areas because I wasn't quite happy with the stitching. It wasn't even and consistent. So I fixed that. The second thing is I am now going to quilt also into the top of the water. I'm going to do another wavy pattern there. And per action, another suggestion from Carolyn, in the gaps on the coral between all the critters, I'm going to do a feather pattern. It's going to be more like a feather kelpie pattern. Just out of my brain, you'll see when it's done. The reason for that mainly is because the fabric is lifting a little bit in the gaps between and around the critters. So I want to make sure that fabric is settled down. All right, I have sewn on the kelp free motion. You can see it in here. I did all along the bottom. And I did a wavy pattern at the top. I think you can see it there. And so I also took the liberty of, as I'll zoom back here, trimming the quilt to its final size, which worked out to be, even with the shrinkage, because I had left some extras in, it's about 24 by 36. Back to the trusty Singer Confidence Quilter to finish the Sealife art quilt, which is so pumped because all I have to do now is put the binding on. But before I do that, let me show you something. I went at my first ever quilting workshop yesterday, put on by a great name. Her name is Corolla Russell. And I signed up for it because it's got poppies in a poppy art quilt. Now, it's not done yet. Things are still pinned in place, but check that out. Isn't that cool? With poppies and stems and leaves and things like that. And it was a lot of fun. And I got to learn a whole bunch of things. So that's pretty exciting. Anyway, now, here is the color I'm going to use for the binding. Da-da-da. It's a nice, relatively, well, no, it's got a nice color texture to it. And it's going to be a nice blue to go around the Sealife quilt. So, I'll get to it. I'm going to cut me some 2 1/4 inch strips with the fabric. I need 4 of them. Then I iron it in half, and away I go. Make the binding. And done. I have bound this quilt. It is gorgeous, and it is done. So I'm definitely going to show it at the Quilty Guild meeting tomorrow. And here's a picture of it so you can see it in its full glory with the binding. Doesn't that look good? Everything worked out. With the cloth octopus, the printed critters, the coral on the bottom, the water reflection on the top, the special free motion quilting I did. It just works very well. I'm really happy with the way this came out. Traditionally, I would have a toast to the quilt. But at the same time, I'm doing a Drinking Beer with Don series of videos. So I'm going to take the lazy man's way out because I do have to have a beer today. But I also need to film it for this Drinking Beer with Don series. So click on the link here and you can be able to see the beer. It's a Belgian triple ale that I'm having for today, the 8th of December. All right? So have a great one and stay tuned for the next quilt, whatever that may be. I don't know yet. But this was a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoyed the production of this Sealife art quilt. You guys have a great one. Cheers.